A year ago, we had the harebrained idea that we wanted to run the Walt Disney World Marathon. Now it's a week before that.
Yeah, it sounded like a good idea
Yeah.
back then. After we had ran a few halves. We did Wine and Dine, then we did the marathon weekend half. And for some reason, we thought it sounded like a good idea to do the full. But I will tell you, why? Why is it just like right after Christmas? It's right after Christmas and New Year's. You've been traveling, you've been with family, you've been snacking,
You've moved.
you've moved, and running is probably one of the last things that, well, if you're like us, we haven't gotten as much training in as I'd hoped, but we're doing it.
We're doing it. We're going to make it, and it's going to be fun. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I just got to outrun the bus.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. I'm your host, Paul Krieger, and it's just me and my lovely wife, Amy, this
Hello.
week. Yeah, we just got back from the holiday season. Happy New Year. I hope everyone kind of enjoyed the holiday season. And between that and us moving and other chaos, we have just been so busy. But we wanted to bring you an episode this week, and we wanted to come back around to some questions that we actually had asked in our DVC fan Facebook community. This was probably a month or two ago. It's been a little while, but I looked back through the questions and I was like, most of these are still very relevant. We should discuss them. And then I said, I'm not going to show them to you whatsoever.
No, so I feel really ill-prepared.
That's okay.
Yeah, I can make it even better for you and take my glasses off, and then when you put them up on the screen, I won't
even read them.
I won't see anything.
But we wanted to get back around to these questions. We are filming new episodes of the DVC show later this week with the entire crew, so those will be coming to you very soon. And the days of this backdrop are numbered, I will say that.
Because it looks like we're in the same house.
It does, yeah. I was on Zoom calls with people right the day after we moved, and everyone was like, you moved, right? And I was like, yeah, I mean, there's not much that's changed. I didn't know, what else was I going to do with it? I don't know. But we do have a dedicated room downstairs that we are going to kind of turn into our studio per se. So I'm pretty excited. There's a lot of IKEA furniture that I have to build before we get down there, though. So we will be there in 2025, hopefully in the next month or two. But hey, I was good. I built some IKEA stuff today.
You did. He got a lot done. And like once a week he'll say, okay, I will hang 5 things
Five
up.
items.
And so I have to strategically pick what 5. We still have a lot to hang, a lot to build. We're getting there.
We're getting settled in.
Yeah.
So.
And hopefully we get a fence tomorrow.
Hopefully.
So.
Yes, that is like the big things, because the dogs are like, we have to take them out 3 times a day.
Right.
You people that can take your dogs out multiple times a day and live in the city, people that live in like big cities and have dogs, like that's their whole life. Kudos to you, because I love dogs, and that would just be a lot.
Right. 3 walks a day is a lot for us taking our dogs.
Anyhow, you're not here to listen to us ramble about dogs. You want to know kind of some answers to some general Disney Vacation Club questions. Before we get into it, this and all of our content is brought to you by the world of DVC. DVC Resale Market. If you're looking to buy or sell a Disney Vacation Club contract, the first of the year is the perfect time to do it. A lot of people are listing and selling their contracts right now. So head over to DVC Resale Market. Monera Financial, who can help you in financing that DVC resale contract purchase, and the DVC rental store, where you can try before you buy, rent some points, rent out your own points, get some money in the pocket so that you can pay those annual dues, because as of you listening to this, annual dues are due in a week. So you might want to be thinking about that if you kind of need to pay for those in some way, shape, or form. Thank you, as always, for all the love and support that you show for our sponsors. And we have 20 questions to get through. And the last time we did this, it took us the better part of an hour and a half. So we'll see if we can beat that record, because I don't know that you want to listen to us ramble.
Yeah, it's 6:51.
6:51. We'll see how we do. But question
Sunday night
number 1 tonight comes from Julie. And I thought it was interesting because I do have some news not related to the question, though. Julie asked, has the world of DVC considered adding Disneyland to its swap program? Amy? Good one. Okay. Yes, we actually, if you are looking to swap your points for a Disneyland vacation, we actually do that already. We don't publicize it, but any type of Disney vacation, we can swap your DVC points for. So essentially, you can book a vacation package through us, through our swap coordinator, Ellie, and she will then plan your Disneyland vacation for you. And then whatever basically the balance of that vacation is, you can then pay down by renting your points through the DVC rental store. And it's a way to get kind of more bang for your buck through that rental process. A really cool thing that I know is launching here within the next week or so is Royal Caribbean cruise swaps. And we have been talking about this for a while because we love Royal Caribbean.
We do. Yeah, we're pretty hooked on Royal Caribbean. It's just our escape, I think, at this point. And we just find it affordable and love the huge array of ships and destinations. So
we are embarking on Icon of the Seas for the second time this coming March.
But a different itinerary. So we did we did Western last year. Oh my goodness, last year. It was a couple days ago. But April of last year. And then we did we're doing Eastern, and we're going with oh my gosh, I always want to say
Pill and Pauline.
Philine. I want to say Philine. Paul and my goodness.
Nope, not
Pauline and Phil.
There you go.
The Murphys. We'll just call them the Murphys.
Yes.
But we're going with them. Very excited. And we have a few others. We're going back to Alaska. We're taking our moms in September. We're doing our smallest ship ever, which is going to be the Radiance of the Sea. And then we have a free cruise that we're going on in June before Disneyland. So
yeah, we've got a lot of Royal Caribbean cruises in 2025, less than we had in 2024.
Yes, less. We did 4 in 2024,
but we still
we just scale back.
We may add another one. Who knows what happens there? But super excited, and I think something just to note about Royal Caribbean. I assume most of you listening to this are Disney fans, Disney lovers. You've heard of Disney Cruise Line and done Disney cruises. I would highly encourage you just to check out Royal Caribbean. Our CEO of actually the world of DVC, Nick Cotton, he actually took his family on the Icon of the Seas recently. And by day 2, Amy and I were getting text messages from him saying he was booking another cruise. And he's someone that has taken a bunch of Disney cruises in his life. So,
I think they booked the Star next.
Yeah. So they were very impressed by what Royal has to offer, and specifically what Royal's doing with their kids clubs as well. So if you've never considered it, good time. And if you're a Disney Vacation Club member, swapping your points for that Royal Caribbean cruise could be a great opportunity.
But definitely check out Icon of the Seas. Or Utopia right now is doing the short
alternate weekend.
Yep. So the short 3 and 4 night to Nassau and to their private island Coco Cay in the Bahamas and back. So that's a good way to get a little taste of Royal Caribbean on a really nice ship. But Icon is my favorite. So
question 2 for the night. Glynis asks, thoughts on Weightless coming through and how often you have had luck?
I feel like we've had a really good luck recently. And we don't plan as far ahead. So we've done Weightless more than we normally did before we lived here in Florida. Now we utilize Weightless a lot more. And we used to be, I would say we were 50-50 when we lived in West Virginia and we didn't use them as often. And now that we can do shorter stays and we're looking for things a little more last minute, I feel like we've gotten every Weightless since we've moved. Has come through. Do you think that's because I can think of everyone we've set up? Vero Beach, that came through for us. That Polynesian duo studio, that just came through for us, didn't it?
That was extremely last minute. So we had some points that were going to expire. Our use year for most of our contracts is February. And the points, I think we had kind of just flipped some stuff around. We canceled a one-night stay that we had, I think, in December at one point. We were like, what are we going to do with these points? So we ended up taking them and we booked a Boulder Ridge, I think, studio with them for one night, just kind of in late January, just to go up and enjoy the night. But then after you stayed at the Polynesian Island Tower for the grand opening, I was like, I want to be able to stay there that night. I had to come home, be with the dogs, edit videos, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I really wanted to stay there. So I waitlisted that one night and it came through within like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
It was very quick. I think the big thing with waitlist is flexibility. How
Mhm.
flexible are you with, are you doing a split stay? It's going to be easier the smaller number of
Yeah,
days
a
to put
couple of
together.
nights here and there.
Yeah.
Dan and Jeff just had Disneyland Hotel come through for them for June.
Yep.
So don't sleep on waitlists. Obviously, you're going to have the most luck if you do both waitlist and stalking, what we call stalking the system. But I'm going to be honest with you, lately, Paul and I have just been so busy. We've not stalked the system at all. We've got so much work and stuff going on. And waitlists have been really working very well for us. So definitely set them for sure.
I'll close by saying, for those of you new to wait lists, or if you've never done a wait list before, keep in mind that when Disney does fulfill the wait list request, you will get an email that says your reservation has been canceled. So the existing reservation, if
Yeah.
you are replacing an active reservation with that wait list, you'll get an email that basically says that reservation's been canceled.
Right.
It's not
After
the
your heart
subtlest.
starts
Yeah.
beating again, you can
Yeah, most
you can
people
check the
freak out
site.
at that moment, but if you
Mhm.
get that email, just go on. It typically means that a wait list has been
Mhm.
fulfilled and that new reservation will be there. That reservation email for that though takes a little while longer. It seems like those normally take an
Yeah,
hour
and
or
that
two
wasn't
after.
a thing before.
No,
You would
yeah,
get the email saying you got the room first.
yeah.
I don't know why.
Those have
I
always been delayed recently. I feel like it's like an hour or two after you book that you don't
Yeah, they
get
need
those
to figure
emails.
that out because
So
that is kinda scary.
Brian said, "Did either of you bring the other into the Disney fold, or were you both into Disney before meeting one another?"
I
I
was
feel like I tell this story all the
You
time,
do.
so I want you to tell it
Yeah,
this
I
time.
was not a Disney person. Actually, I mean, I grew up watching some of the movies, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid. So I enjoyed those, but never had thought about going to Disneyland, and your light just went out.
Yep.
Uh, or Disneyland, Disney World, Disneyland, any of it. Matter of fact, when I was little, I didn't even know the difference between Disney World and Disneyland for a long time. And the first time I saw the Contemporary, I thought it was a value resort
Oh my god.
because when I was younger and I was just like, what a weird looking hotel. It must be really cheap to stay there. So, but yeah, it was just because like to me it looked kind of industrial when I was younger.
What did you think All Star Sports was then?
I didn't see those.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I'm saying younger. This was 2011 when I was
Oh, yes.
in my 20s. I was like, man, that must be a value resort. That must be like a cheap hotel. I was stupid back then. Anyway, and I didn't even know half the other ones existed. But anyway, we went to Disney that one day. We just did Magic Kingdom, Epcot. We split our time. It was the service of the sun outside, and we did 2 days at Universal, 2 or 3. No, I think it was 3. It was 3, and at that time, by the time we got back, I was just like, yeah, I don't get Disney. I'd rather go to Universal. So I think it took a while for Paul to kind of convince me to go back, and we did a real trip where we stayed for it was only 4 nights, but stayed on property, Port Orleans, did all the parks, 1 day per park, and that sold me. So yeah, so I would say definitely Paul kind of had to get me into the Disney.
Yeah, I knew right away doing one day was just going to be terrible. So it was something that it was like, okay, we have to give this another shot. I'm not going to give up just yet. So we did that 4 night stay, and
Yeah.
we did the dining plan for that. That
Yeah.
was just a great all around vacation. So
Yeah, yeah, I was very hooked after that, so.
that's when she became addicted. Our next question for the night came from Jonathan and said, "Where would you recommend buying at over the other, Bay Lake Tower or the Polynesian?"
Ooh. Okay. That is actually tough. I'm seeing the refurbishment for Bay Lake, some of the photos, and the artwork is just stunning. I hope they sell some of it at the art kiosk, but I guess it's just gonna depend. So at the Poly, you've got the island tower, so you have 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms there. You've got studios and duos, then you've got the longhouses. At Bay Lake, though, you do have grand villas, which you don't have at the Polynesian. I don't know. I can't decide. I want both. We own Polynesian. We don't own Bay Lake. The annual dues of Bay Lake are a little bit less, but not like considerable amount. And I can't even remember Bay Lake's expiration date. I feel like it's close.
2060.
Okay, so Bay Lake does have a little bit of a longer expiration date, whereas Poly is
66.
Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was thinking 50s. I don't
Yeah.
know why I thought that. Yeah, so Poly is a longer expiration date.
Yeah.
So at this point, I would say probably Polynesian, especially with the new island tower. If the Bay Lake wasn't getting refurbishment, I would say Polynesian for sure. But I am loving that refurbishment.
I would ultimately say that neither resort is bad. It's really just, it depends on what you're looking for. Both, I think, have fairly reasonable point charts. So both are accessible. As Amy said, Polynesian has a little bit longer of an expiration date. So if this is something that you're planning on holding on to for a period of time, probably leaning towards Polynesian, especially right now. It's the hot commodity. That being said, Bay Lake recently, over the past year or so, we've kind of seen it decline in terms of resale value. And
you
other
can
things.
get Bay Lake for less, and the annual dues are lower.
Yeah, and I would say that may not be the case forever.
You got to go with what your heart tells you in this case. You mean like you have to go into the resorts and say, oh my goodness, like this one gives me the feels, like that's where I want to be.
Well, and here's where I'm stuck is that I still question if eventually we see Disney do like a Bay Lake Tower West or South or whatever.
Maybe
do a second type of Bay Lake Tower to add to the contemporary complex. That has been something that's been rumored and talked about for years. They could take that other garden wing area, and if they rolled that into the same association, that would make a lot of sense. My problem with that is this expiration thing, because it makes less and less sense the longer that they wait to potentially do that. So
it
would probably end up being a new association, because Grand Floridian was 2064. That made sense. Polynesian 2066. This would be the first one that is probably the longest or the shortest, I guess, in terms of expiration periods if they were to do that. So I wouldn't bank on that. Buy where you want to stay.
They're two completely different aesthetics. So, do you want tropical vibes? Do you want something that feels a little more streamlined? I guess that's what Bay Lake. I love Bay Lake though. It very much feels like you're in Magic Kingdom.
Aaron said, how long do you think it'll take to sell out the cabins at Fort Wilderness?
I think that they will be selling for, I think that they will eventually maybe sell out. I don't think it's going to be like an Alani situation because it's at Disney World. I guess it depends on what happens with, I'm going to call it refractions, Lakeshore Lodge.
Yeah. The Lakeshore Lodge is going to be the unknown variable here of this equation. And the reason of that is that there are thoughts that Lakeshore Lodge will be rolled into this Palmetto Trust that the cabins at Fort Wilderness is in. And if that's the case, then essentially it's all one big property. And by viewing it that way, that's a whole lot more points. The other thing we don't know about Lakeshore is, the original concept was 900 rooms. If those are all Disney Vacation Club rooms, that's a huge resort. That's going to be a lot of points. You add that on top of the Fort Wilderness. Let's put it this way. I will say that I'll just throw a number out there. I'll say 2032 is when I think maybe these would be sold out. So Lakeshore Lodge is supposed to be completed by 2027. That gives us 5 years from the completion date of that. If they are not rolled together, I would say that it may take even longer for Fort Wilderness to sell out, because at the current pace of its sales,
it is selling very slowly. Like we have been waiting a really long time just for a resale contract to hit the market, and we haven't had that yet.
No,
And Disneyland resale contracts hit the market faster, and Riviera hit the market
very fast,
really fast. Yeah, before even open, some of the Rivieras were on resale. So.
Yeah, I think right now it's just a question mark until we know more about what's happening with Lakeshore Lodge. But I want to go back and stay there again. Like, we had a great time when we stayed there.
Oh, I love the Fort Wilderness. Yeah, loved it. I just thought it's a different vibe. It's different than any Disney trip that you do. And I would recommend just trying it out as, if you're going to do it, have some time to spend at the resort. Do the resort things, get a golf cart, drive around, do the campfire and the marshmallows, and go kayaking, or
I had to talk you into that one.
I know, it was fun. It was fun after I realized that the logs were not alligators. It was fun. But there's just all kinds of stuff. You can go horseback riding. There's a dog park. Bring your dogs. So
Yep.
yeah.
Aaron asked as well, what's the best time for a Walt Disney World vacation as a DVC member?
Oh gosh, you keep looking at me, but you didn't prepare me for these questions. So.
I know, that's what's so fun about this. Okay, I'll go first. I think the best season in which most people travel that are Disney Vacation Club members are the fall and holiday season. You've got food and wine, you've got Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. If you want to go down the street and do Halloween Horror Nights, you can do that. And then you have to experience the holidays here at Disney World. That said, I think the golden period to come is starting very, very soon, which is like mid-January through mid-February, when it's a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
And it's when we kind of fell in love with coming here, which was Festival of the Arts.
Festival of the Arts.
They're not as many people are traveling here, so it's a little bit calmer. Locals down here love it this time of year because
the traffic gets so much better.
It's easy to kind of navigate.
Although I will say that Marathon Weekend's a little bit later this year, so that pushes that back. But usually, like the week after the week that has Martin Luther King Day, that's when things start to get really nice. And you're right, it's fun to go to Disney when it's a little cooler. When you can kind of bundle up, you can order those warmer, drinks and hot soups at the festivals and things like that. It's very enjoyable, when it's not really, really, really hot. So I do love that time of year. And I also want to just mention, I love the Flower and Garden Festival. So that is actually probably my favorite festival because I love the topiaries and all the colors, and I love a lot of the food there. And that starts in March. So
at this point, I think we've named every month of the year. So the answer to this question is
we did not say you did not say August and July.
No, steer clear in August and July. It's a little too hot. But yeah, I think there's so many amazing things going on down here. So it just depends on what you're excited for and what you actually want to come and enjoy when you're down here. Michelle asks, I believe that all resorts have an expiration date of January 31st of that year. So I've always wondered, will they charge dues for that final year?
I don't think so. I think because use years start in February. That's the first use year. So nobody's getting points February 1st of that final year.
Yep.
Like your actual last point allotment would have been the year. So everyone says, we got 2042 resorts. Actually, the last point allotment is 2041.
February 2041.
Yeah, and I wonder if we're also going to see restrictions on banking.
Probably
your points
into last year.
Yeah, like you got to use them before that resort expires.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting.
The only reason they may not do that would be if they do what we assume is going to happen in 2042, which is they're going to flip these properties and resell them. Then the property either goes offline for a refurbishment or they're selling most of it via cash. And maybe in those situations, maybe they want that added year of people still checking in and people still using the property. So maybe they don't care so much in those situations.
Yeah. But I don't see them collecting dues.
No.
That year because no one got points for that year.
So it'll be very interesting. The most telling thing that we noticed came out of the condo association meeting this year was that someone asked in one of the meetings, I believe it might have been the boardwalk meeting, if there was any consideration for an extension for other 2042 resorts like Old Key West did. And I can't tell you how quickly they shut that conversation down.
Yeah.
It was an immediate
not gonna happen.
No, it's not gonna happen. Very defiant, didn't go any further into it. And that's just, we've talked about this before, and I know Derek's talked about it because he was kind of around when they were doing the Old Key West extension. It was just such a debacle that they don't want to go into that again because they're still cleaning up the mess of the Old Key West extension. There's still issues related to how that was offered. So I think anyone buying into a 2042 resort, you've got to do that with the mindset of there is not going to be an extension offered or any type of offer after that. It's going to expire.
Yeah. And whether they start new or whatever, sell it off depending on the resort. So we just don't know.
Carrie said, for those of us Disney lovers who dream of living near Disney, what is your advice on figuring out where to live?
Oh.
Also, any other tips for moving to Florida?
Oh my goodness.
We could be here for the next
I
hour.
know. I could talk about this for hours, and that's probably not what most of you want to hear. But this topic has come up a lot in the DVC fan Facebook group as well. I just saw it the other day, and it's definitely a big consideration for a lot of people. You know, especially if you're a DVC member, you are buying real estate interest at Disney. And then, you're already invested to that degree. So some people say, I'm just going to move down. Or, right now is when a lot of people start thinking, oh my goodness, these Northwest or, Midwest, North, whatever, East winters, you get those and you're like, yep, I just want to go live in Florida. But so for Paul and I, we did what I would call like our Florida starter house.
Yes.
Which was not where we wanted to be permanently, but it was a nice place for us for the 3 years that we did live there. But while we were here, we kind of got a better feel of where we wanted to live. So I don't know what advice to get from that, but I think that it takes time to really figure out
where you want
to be down here.
Because here's the thing. We lived basically previously like down near Winter Haven, which is like where Legoland is. So almost to like where Lakeland is. And as Amy said, it was at the time, it was the heat of the housing peak down here when we moved. So we got more bang for our buck. We got more house. We got more yard for the dogs. That's why we moved there.
Mm-hmm.
But we did love that area. We fell in love with Lakeland. We fell in love with going to Tampa. We actually fell in love with going the opposite direction than going towards Disney. Now, that was mainly, though, because of I-4. And I think that's, if you are coming down here, that is the real consideration, is if you live north of I-4, then you're kind of taking a decent amount of traffic out of the equation when it comes to traveling to the parks and resorts. That's where we've moved now. We're kind of in the Claremont area. And if you're south of I-4, then you have to contest with that. So put it in a perspective. It previously, if we had to be on property for some event or something, Amy and I left 2 hours before we had to be there because we didn't know what traffic was going to be like. Now it's a pretty consistent half hour, and normally we can get there less than that.
Yeah. And we get to Universal in like 20 something minutes. So that's pretty amazing. It used to be at 2 hours to Universal.
Yeah.
So,
and that was consistent.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what do you want to be close to? What are your priorities? Schools, this, that. I think that question is unique for each individual. So just do your research on the area.
And it might not be the first place you move.
Yeah.
You might get settled for a couple of years and save up for something more or, So, yeah.
Diana said, how do you get both Tron and Tiana's Bayou without spending additional money? And is this even possible?
Yes. Tron now has a standby line, so you can stand at that for free. I don't think that you can do I think you can only pick one or the other now, right?
In terms of
Well, actually, I think this question is actually outdated.
Yes,
let me backpack. Yeah, I had to think it through a little bit. This is what being ill-prepared does. I think she was asking when they were both
individual lightning.
Nope.
No?
What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. The boarding groups, when they were boarding groups.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See, this question is from when they were.
Wow, this is an old question.
Yes. See, so I went through when they were relevant. This is when they were boarding groups and they would not allow you to have both at once.
Yes.
And so you did have to.
Oh, my other light went out. I'm batting 1,000 tonight.
You did have to spend extra money, and you could buy now they're not called ills anymore. What are they called?
I don't know.
And it used to be individual lightning lane. We butchered this question.
I'm just gonna apologize and tell you that probably yes, you can do this now.
Yes.
When you ask this question, when you asked this question, you couldn't, but now the lines are open and hop right on and enjoy yourself, or pay the pay the individual Lightning Lane price. It's
the name has changed.
Yeah, Lightning Lane Premier. I don't know. They've changed it so many times.
Yes, but this is without spending money. So now it's yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. You just got to spend time.
I'm not sure how we're going to recover from that last question, but we're going to try. Jessica said, what are your best tips for caring for your introverted family members during park days? How do you care for me, Amy?
I'm introverted too.
Not as much as me.
I think, well, you get to your like social peak. And I think we have to take a break.
I don't know. I think I broke my chair. I kind of hit my Wall-E shutdown mode at some point. It especially happens like when we're in a larger group of people. It's a lot for me to just remain engaged. And part of it for me, like it's both being introverted, but also just wanting to make sure that I get to interact with everyone.
And that everybody's happy. And I get stressed out in bigger groups like that. And like, we went to Moonlight Magic, and I feel like there was like 12 people.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I don't know how to make people feel like we're not leaving them behind, how to make sure everyone knows when we're moving on. Like that stresses me out.
Yeah. And also when you're in a group like that, it's like herding cats.
Yeah.
So you sometimes just feel the need to go, and that kind of gets the group moving with you. But yeah, Amy and I are both very introverted, and I would say it's taking time to just have quiet moments in the parks. It's doing those rides that allow you to just kind of decompress a little bit. It's one of the reasons why we love like the People Mover in Magic Kingdom. Or
finding those quiet spots, like a park bench that's out of the way. Epcot has all these little places you can go back behind like the UK pavilion, back in like that garden area. You can find a place to sit, or go back in through Morocco and get the 2-for-1 sangria and have a seat and chill out. So yeah, just taking breaks, I think is
just kind of finding an exit from the crowd. And I think that's where Disney Vacation Club resorts are beautiful too, is because you can escape back to those resorts, and there's plenty of quiet places like that in all of these properties. So some of our little tips and hacks from what we typically do if we get a little overwhelmed on a park day or if we're at the resorts. Denise said, for us old-timer DVC members who own 2042 resorts, sell now before resale prices plummet, or just let our families enjoy the next 18 years of vacation?
That's a great question, because we were in this boat where we were thinking about selling Boardwalk, and I think we missed that window.
Yes.
And I'm actually glad. I think that we're going to enjoy it for the next 18 years. And that would be my choice, would be enjoy it for the next 18 years. I don't think the prices right now justify selling it. I think you're going to get more value out of using it.
Yeah, I think that we've kind of seen the price drop already start with the 2042 resorts.
Yeah.
And so I think,
especially Beach Club. It's
Beach Club and Boardwalk have both kind of, and I wouldn't say that, I guess I would correct myself a little bit. We've seen a little bit of a drop on both of these, but what we're seeing with Beach Club and Boardwalk is there's no consistency anymore. So it's up one month, it's down another. And I think that basically kind of a lot of people just not knowing where that value lies with those properties anymore. We saw it with Boulder Ridge. That kind of decreased before its recent refurbishment, but kind of upticked a little bit there again.
But the other thing to think about is Boardwalk and Beach Club, Old Key West, those 2042 resorts, they have amazing point charts.
Yes.
So, are you really getting the value if you sell them off and you lose that 11-month window to using those low point charts? I think, and I don't think we're going to see point charts like that after they expire. So I say use them for as long as you can.
Use them for as long as you can. If you're not going to use them a certain year, go ahead and rent them. DVC Rental Store can assist with that process. But I think that they're kind of the contract to hold on to. Yeah. And I agree with what you said. When we originally we bought those 50 points at Boardwalk saying, we want to be able to stay at Boardwalk. We want to be able to lock that in and make sure that we can stay there. And that's specifically what we bought those 50 points for. Yeah. And that's what we'll continue to use those 50 points for.
Really. I still love Boardwalk.
Yeah. It's still a beautiful resort. Joan said, curious about the Animal Kingdom Lodge concierge rooms. Are they worth the points?
We had one booked and then we ended up having to cancel it because we ended up choosing that time to fly to Wheeling.
Yeah.
But I will say that based on cash prices of concierge and like comparing it to the points on the concierge rooms at Animal Kingdom, I say it's a very good value. But with that said, it's a caveat of if you can get the room.
Yeah.
You know, because it's near impossible, even for owners at the 11-month window. It's very, very hard to get a club level stay. So yes, if you can get it, I think it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, very small room allotment there, but the benefits of having that club level definitely kind of maybe outweigh the additional point cost. You're basically getting like
it's the food. The whole benefit is the food.
Meals for free.
If you're going on a trip where you're heavily dining out, it's probably not worth it.
No,
but if you're gonna hang out at the resort and you're gonna eat the food, then yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, because otherwise the room is the same.
Blake said, I just want sleep around points. Enough for a long weekend, 3 nights. How many points should I be looking for?
So just like 3 nights a year, I'm guessing?
Looks like 3 nights a year. Some sleep around points.
75.
75?
That's my guess.
I would say 100 just because I don't know, like, are we doing 1 bedrooms or
I guess I was doing studios in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also, anyone that buys points are always going to want to buy and add on more points. So the point of sleep around points is to get a decent number of points at a cheap cost. And I think if you gear towards some of those smaller contracts, then you're kind of you're decreasing the value of the sleep around points. Whereas if you go into the
because you're paying more per point. Exactly. That is a good point.
If you're going to
100,
125, somewhere in that range, that's where you're going to pay a little bit less per point. Get them at a resort like Saratoga or something and use it wherever you want.
Yeah. And a lot of people, Saratoga is usually the number one that people think of when it comes to like sleep around points, especially because it has a decent expiration date. And it's priced very well on the resale market. But take a look at the blog section on DVC Resale Market's website. They do I think is it quarterly or
quarterly? It's
best economical. They rate the resorts basically on like the best economical, and they look at average price per point. They look at annual dues and the years left on the contract. Yep. A lot of times recently Copper Creek has been coming out ahead on that, just because it has a decent amount of years left and the price per point is pretty good. But you can't go wrong with Saratoga either.
No, it's beautiful. Micah said, what are the ways to make a trip to a DVC resort affordable for out-of-state owners so that the trip proves relaxing and not taxing?
Well,
I'll kick this one off and just say, if you are coming here and you're trying to make the trip overall more affordable, do the 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, depending on the size of your family, and cook in that room. Utilize the kitchen and all of the amenities.
Yeah.
It's going to save you a whole lot of money versus eating out at the parks. I would also say budget, for some snacks in the parks. Like you still want to be able to enjoy being.
Yeah. Or if you want to eat out, once a day, breakfast and lunch are cheaper usually than, lunch depends on where you're going, but breakfast is by far definitely usually cheaper than dinner or lunch. So you could do dinner or you could do, breakfast out and cook for dinner or, whatever. Yep. Another way we always say, this always comes up, buy Disney gift cards at a discounted rate, use Target Red Card for 5% off or wholesale clubs and use those to pay for like the things that you're buying on property, so that you're getting a little bit of a discount on that.
Yeah. And if you're last but not least, like if your family's gotten a little bit burnt out of the parks and maybe that's not in the cards in terms of buying tickets or something this year, just enjoy the resorts. Plan a split stay, split it up between a couple of different resorts, and explore what these resorts have to offer in terms of the activities, because there's so much going on. Yes. This has been something that we've wanted, we still want to do this, and we're going to hopefully make some time this year to get to the resorts and show you all some of the special activities and stuff that go on, because I didn't even know this the other day. Did you know Copper Creek has a rubber ducky race every day?
Every day?
I'm pretty sure it's every day.
I never heard of that.
I'm not. Don't 100% quote me on that. Maybe it's once a week, but they put some rubber ducks in the water, and it's like a rubber duck race.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
you go.
There's all kinds of things
Never
going
knew.
on, and it doesn't cost anything extra to use the pool of your resort, so.
Or to pick a winning rubber duck. Suzanne said, which DVC resort has your favorite running paths?
I'm trying to think of, we've not, I unfortunately, as much as we do train for running, we don't run at Disney very much. I mean, we run the Disney races, but we don't run at the resorts.
Here's what happens. Paul and Amy book rooms, and we pack our bags, and we normally go, hey, do you think we'll run that morning after Moonlight Magic that we're out till 1 in the morning, Tat? And we always say yes. We always pack our running shoes, but we never do a
Doesn't
whole
happen.
decent
We did run at Fort Wilderness, and it was very enjoyable. Do you remember?
No, it was hot. It was like the surface of the...
it was hot, but when I'm talking about the path, the route was enjoyable.
Yeah, but it was like the trees like held the moisture. It was the most I think I've sweat on a run in the past.
Running in Florida in general is going to be hot a lot of the year, but in terms of like pathways, I will say, there's a lot of people that run around Crescent Lake. That's a decent loop. I personally don't like that because it's too people-y. I don't want to run into people.
But you can also take that and head off to Hollywood Studios too.
That's true.
So there is kind of a little outshoot right there.
Yeah.
We did run around Saratoga one time.
Yeah, I thought we did. I was trying to remember. And I like that. And if you run Saratoga, you can also run down to Old Key West. You could even run over to Disney Springs and grab some snacks, which defeats the purpose of running. But
you can see where our mind is.
That's a good option as well. I don't really, there's nowhere really good at if you're at the Magic Kingdom resorts, you could technically run from, you could do like Bay Lake Magic Kingdom, Grand Floridian Polynesian, but once you get onto like Polynesian Grand Floridian property, you have to make sure you're not getting run over by those cars.
You're going to be bobbing and weaving.
Yeah.
If you're not out there super early in the morning. I think a sleeper one that we have walked several times but never run is Riviera and Caribbean Beach.
Oh, yeah, I love that. That would be a great... We actually got up to run. And remember, you weren't feeling it, so we walked it instead.
Yeah. You can see we try.
But that would be a good one too. The loop of Riviera Caribbean Beach is a good one.
Robert said, would you rather spend a few days at Disney World and then get on a cruise ship, or a few days at Vero Beach?
Can I just go really back one last time to the last question? Not a DVC resort. I love running around Coronado Springs.
Yeah.
Anyway, just had to throw that in there.
Robert, we have done this. My heart is at Vero Beach because I think it allows me to kind of unwind pre-cruise, which is great. Yeah. I think if I did Walt Disney World first, I'd be like amped up from the parks. I would almost kind of do it the opposite if I were doing
Vero Beach. Yeah, Vero Beach is a great pre-cruise place because really you just need like a few nights there to kind of unwind. And I feel like the route from Vero Beach to Port Canaveral is a nice route to drive. Like it's not crazy, right?
It's just a straight shot up.
Yeah.
Is it A1A or whatever that? Yeah. Actually, now it's the Jimmy Buffett Highway, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Shout out to Jeff Haslam because he'll listen to this and he'll be impressed that I remembered that. But we've done Vero Beach before a cruise, and I would do it again.
100%. I would pick Vero first before a cruise.
Becky said, I would like to add a night at Vero Beach to our trip. Should I add before, after, or during? And how can I get there and back without renting a car?
Okay, not during, because then you'd have to go there, back, and back again.
That would be difficult.
I would say after to relax. If we're talking about after a Disney World trip, right? So this is kind of the opposite of the cruise one.
Yep.
To kind of like wind down after and relax after, a couple long days in the park.
Yep. And then you could maybe even go further south and fly out of Fort Lauderdale or something like that. I wish that there was a more convenient way to get to Vero Beach, but unfortunately I really don't know a decent one without renting a car. I don't believe that Disney World does any transportation.
They don't. And I mean, like, it would be, I I don't know if people normally would Uber or do Lyft, and I feel like that's
Oh,
kind of a
yeah, no, that
long
would be
haul.
yeah.
You would want to book some,
Private car
yeah, you
service
want to
or
book like
something.
Black Lane or something private to ensure you had transportation for sure to get there. But honestly, like renting a car, if you can do it, is probably because you're going to pay as much for a private
Yeah.
transportation.
Yeah.
Rent a car because you'll want to be able to go out. There's only one restaurant and a quick service at Vero Beach, so you want to be able to drive and go and explore some of the really good local places.
Yep. Yep. You want to be able to get
Mhm.
out and about. Danielle said, what type of vacationer would probably not get the value out of Disney Vacation Club?
We did a whole I think we did a whole episode on this.
We did.
Who DVC wasn't for.
Yep.
So definitely recommend that you go back and watch that show because it's the whole thing's on it. And some of the ones that we had discussed were people who don't plan ahead like ever.
Yep.
Like super last minute people, especially, you're going to be very frustrated. People who prefer like really just view your room as a place to sleep at night and you're, sun up to sundown, rope drop to fireworks, always in the parks, and the resort doesn't really matter to you and you're happy with the value resorts. I don't know that DVC would, be the value there for you. It's really, you have to really love being at the resorts, I think.
Yeah.
Like we do.
And part of it is you do want that more deluxe resort experience when you're in these rooms. We always say that you're saving money year after year if you come here as a Disney Vacation Club member versus staying in moderates. But again, you are paying an added price there. We're comparing that directly against what a deluxe property would be. And so to your point, if you're just coming here and wanting to stay in a room and All Stars does that for you.
Or off property, even people who would rather stay
yeah.
on property and save money that way. And one of the other big ones is just people who don't go to Disney enough. Like you've got to be using your points at a DVC resort to get that value. If you plan on going to, ski lodge or whatever, or, if you're not going to Disney consistently, then there's no value there for you.
Yeah, for sure. We've almost done it. I don't know how much time has gone by. I guess we're coming up on an hour. We're doing pretty good. Go us. Look at that. Ashley said, how do you combine points with two different use years? In other words, when do you have the total points to book a stay? That is a very tough question because when you buy two different use years, the only way that you're going to be able to combine these points is by doing basically an internal transfer to yourself. So you're going to have to transfer points from one use year into the other use year so that you can use them together at that 7-month booking window in most situations.
Yeah, and you can only do that by calling member services. So that is kind of a pain. And also, they don't show up in your account.
Correct.
So we've been sharing rooms with our friends Dan and Jeff during races. So we found that we really like having a 2-bedroom with a kitchen during the Run Disney races. So if we're all running, and Dan usually works medical, we usually pull our points together and we do a 2-bedroom, which is what we're doing next weekend.
Yep.
We're doing a 2-bedroom at Old Key West. And so when we did this, we transferred some of our Grand Floridian points over to Dan and Jeff to cover, whatever they had paid or whatever. And they could not see them in their account. They just had to remember they were there. And in order to use them, they had to call because they couldn't see them. So the system doesn't always show them to you. You can't always book what sometimes you can. It doesn't always work great.
No.
It's just not a recommendation that we have ever to do 2 different use years if you don't have to.
I literally got off the phone with a lady at rental store the other day who was talking about renting these 32 points that were in this 50-point contract of hers because that contract was a different use year than what everything else was. And it was, for her, it was just such a struggle to always figure out how to combine these. And then you're combining them and, 7-month window. So what was the point of getting this contract and having the home resort priority?
Yeah.
And it makes it very confusing. So like you said,
Yeah,
we
if
have
you can
always
avoid
said,
it, yeah.
we have 2 use years, but it's methodical because we have our Disneyland points out at Grand Cal. And for that, we wanted a separate use year
Mhm.
that made more sense for how we vacationed at Grand Cal and when we want to go out there to
Yeah.
Disneyland, and then every single other contract that we have.
Right.
I mean, this almost goes back to our boardwalk conversation earlier, because we were getting impatient. We were looking for a boardwalk add-on contract for so long. We were looking for a 50-point February use year contract, and we didn't see it come up on the resale market, didn't see it come up on the resale market. And ultimately, we were here on vacation and called Gib McCain, our direct guide, and we said, can you sell us 50 boardwalk points in a February use year? And the answer was yes. We signed papers, I think, an hour later, and we had points in our pocket.
Yeah.
And that was just our impatience at that point, because
but we weren't willing to do another use year.
yeah, we were. That was definitely just something we were not willing to consider. So, last question of the night comes from
we
Heather.
really did make it through.
We did make it through. How do points work with 2 home resorts but same use year? How do you use those points together, banking and borrowing?
Oh, okay. Well, so this is a lot better because you have the same use year. So if they are 2 different home resorts, obviously they're still going to have their home resort windows. So let's say I have 100 Saratoga points and 100 Beach Club points. Within we call it 7 to 11 month window, that's that home resort window, I can only use my 100 Beach Club points at Beach Club, and I can only use my 100 Saratoga points at Saratoga. But once that 7-month window opens up, as long as my points are eligible for those resorts, which if you buy resale at either of those, they are both eligible the same. You can use those points at any resort that they are eligible to use. So let's say I want to use them all 200 at Grand Floridian. Then I'm just going to go and book my Grand Floridian stay if it's available when I go to book, because everything's in the same use year. It's all in the same membership. It's very easy. You just put in which points you want to use from which contract right then and there when you go to book. And it's super, super easy. So much better when you have the same use year to just do that all online yourself.
Where people get confused with this sometimes is there are a lot of people that kind of get they're new to Disney Vacation Club, and they think if I buy 2 different resorts in the same use year, I can pull those points at either resort within that 7 to 11 month window. And that is not the case whatsoever. If that was the case, we would have all broken the Disney Vacation Club, system long ago.
Right.
Nobody would be able to get into
buy 25 Beach Club points and like 1,000 to Vero Beach, and use them all Beach Club at the 11-month window. Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But
and then Heather had mentioned banking and borrowing. It's not necessary unless you want to. I mean, you can use them just as you would use your other points. Just you have to wait till the 7-month window in order to combine 2 different resorts together.
Yep. And just remember, banking and borrowing is that final transaction. So if you bank your points forward, they're stuck in that forward status. If you borrow points backwards, they're stuck in that use year that you borrow them to. You cannot unborrow and you cannot unbank. So always be very confident about those decisions. Make sure that you're very certain that you want to take that trip and borrow those points, or be very certain that you're not going to use those points or go on a vacation that year and you do want to bank those forward. So
yeah, that was a good question, but I don't like ending on such a technical question.
Okay,
I feel
ask
like
a different
we need
question.
something fun.
Fun question.
Okay, if you could go anywhere tomorrow at Disney and eat, like what would you pick? Like what are you craving right now?
At the moment, I'm thinking corn dog nuggets at Casey's Corner.
Really?
Yeah.
That was a disappointing answer.
Yeah, you weren't there? No? I was really excited by that. Really. You had me when we talked about introverted, and I was thinking like that grassy area, like in front of that,
like that,
and I could just sit there with my corn dog nuggets and a Diet Coke or something, and just kind of watch the world around me go by.
That is a great place to sit when it's not too hot, and it's like you feel like you're kind of in your own little bubble, because not a lot of people sit there on the hub grass.
Yeah, I will tell you what I am hoping that we do for the marathon coming up is that I would like to, the night before the marathon, walk over to Disney Springs, go to Earl of Sandwich, get sandwiches, take them back to Old Key West, and then
let's do that.
We
Oh, we didn't have the holiday turkey sandwich this Christmas.
We didn't have much holiday
You know
anything.
what? You know what the good thing is? They serve it all year long.
They do.
They serve it all year.
It's holiday
So
every day.
that's my
holiday
answer.
every day.
Yeah, I love Earl sandwich, and their tomato soup is very good.
In case you didn't know, Amy likes a good sandwich. And on that note, that's gonna kind of do it for our Q&A. We'll do another one of these here in a couple months. So if you have any questions, feel free to keep them in your mind. We'll throw up a post over on, I always say that, and I wish I could rephrase how I said it. We will put a post, not throw it up. We'll put a post over on the DVC Fan Facebook group when we are filming another Q&A show. But we're filming this Wednesday with the whole crew. We've got some fun stuff planned for 2025. If you want some behind the scenes footage of kind of us doing things throughout the parks, or as Amy and I put our new house together, random stuff, patreon.com/DVC fan. Thank you so much to all of our Patreon supporters. You guys mean the world to us, and kind of keep this ship afloat as we continue to share everything we love about DVC with you all. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the DVC Show. I think I'm going to go hang some stuff on a wall and continue doing some stuff around this house. We will see you all next Monday.